In this episode, this car will be going for its MOT. But in order for that to happen, we've got a few jobs to finish. So in the interest of just giving an update following this evening's little bit of progress, here we go. The first bit of news, which actually feels like quite a big piece, is getting that crash bar reinstalled. All of these have been torqued up. I remembered to route the cable for the temperature sensor. The steering on this side is now all done. I just need to torque up the drive shaft and finish putting all the little clips in on there. Heat shield for the exhaust is back on, along with the heat shield for the coolant and power steering. That's all in place. Covers back on for the intercooler. So now all that's left is getting this tightened up and properly aligned. With a bit of luck, tomorrow the new washer bottle should be here, so that can go in. And then the arch liner here can go back on. Front bumper back on, all four wheels, and then take it for its MOT. So we're getting close. The new washer bottle's arrived, so let's crack on with getting it fitted. In theory, it's a simple job. And do one bolt here, the bolt there, and the one at the bottom. However, when you do that, there's this piece of this little clip you can just see poking out here that holds the wheel arch trim in place. That actually fouls on the washer bottle, so I had to squeeze that in to move it. That allows it to drop just enough that it then clears this bit of the bottle, so the bottle then clears this bit of the structure. So let's get it out and have a look at the difference between the two. With the two bottles side by side, you can see the differences. First of all, the big one being the pump, and you can now see why the pumps are not interchangeable. The mounting brackets all seem to be the same, in the same place. The actual routes that the washer hose takes is slightly different. I'm hoping that's going to all just work. But the one thing that threw me when looking at these online was this additional, I believe it to be a level sensor. My car isn't equipped to plug anything in, but in the photos it actually looked almost like an outlet of some sort. So I'm going to change the pump. We look at the back side, you can see the new pump sits further back. It also sits somewhat lower in the reservoir as well. So I'm going to change this anyway because I've got the new pump. I might as well and get this fitted, and hopefully we should have some washing jets. When I took the OEM washer pump out of the new tank, the little gauze piece at the end dropped in, so if you are replacing it, make sure you retrieve this, otherwise it'll rattle about. But I did notice one difference between the Febby bung, where this sits in the tank, and the OEM one. This one actually seals a little bit better by the looks of it, and the gauze to stop any gunk going into the pump, that doesn't actually fit onto the Febby supplied grommet, so I'm going to use the OEM grommet. It's still supple, so I don't think it's going to cause us any problems. Things have just got more curious. So the new pump's in, it's all connected. The pipes, I did have to unclip the front one, which originally ran to this clip and back. I've had to unclip that from there just to give enough clearance and length on the pipe. Everything else fairly okay. The rear one is routed down and this one's routed in the channels on the bottle. However, it does not appear to have fixed the issue. So if I get in, switch the ignition on, you can see still nothing. However, when I did a voltage test, I was getting voltage, so further diagnosis is needed. Okay, now this is getting rather weird. So I've got the multimeter plugged in. If I enable the washers, I'm getting the voltage through. And if I activate the rear washer, get the voltage through. But when it's connected, only the rear washer's working. Strange. So I've reconnected the plug, and that's on the rear, but nothing on the front. Although now, nothing. How bizarre. Absolutely nothing coming out of it, but the voltage is there. The only thing I can think, maybe, is it's this connector. And just how far back the pins are. Let's see if I can. So you can see the pins are recessed into their plug. I wonder if it's that, and therefore the pins aren't actually connecting with the motor, and that's what the issue is. But I don't know how to solve that yet. So now I am officially confused. It has to be this connector. It must be. Although I'm getting 12 volts to the pins, I've had a closer look and the pins look like they are at the end of the connector. They don't appear to be able to go any further forward. I have 12 volts there. I've tried 3 different pumps. The original two, the brand new one, and the one that came with the replacement reservoir. So I don't know. The only thing I can do now is put 12 volts directly to one of the motors just to confirm it's working, although they have spun, so they are working, which means it must be down to this connector. But it's a fully sealed, waterproof connector, so I need to work out if I can A, take it off and replace it, B, I don't know. At the moment, I'm going to have to look into the connector, what is and is not possible with it. So I've just rigged up 2 little connectors onto the pump with a little motorcycle battery. If I connect, you can hear pump spins. And if I turn it the other way, it was spinning. There you go. The pump still spins. So we know this pump works, but if I plug it into the car, it doesn't have it. The only thing it can be is the plug, because we know we've got 12 volts to the plug. The pump operates with 12 volts, as evidenced with this. So it's got to be that. It's got to be the connector, which really is a nightmare. So these washer jets are going to be the death of me at the moment, I think. I've looked at the electrical diagram and studied it some more. From what I can tell, there are 2 relays that control the polarity of the pump and which way it's going, whether it's going to the back window or front window. These can fail. I've looked and I've looked. I've managed to find a place that sells these relays, so I've ordered 2 of those. I'm just going to replace them out and see if that resolves the issue with the washer jets. But whilst I wait for those to turn up, I can get cracking. I've noticed the exhaust is blowing from all the joints, so I've now got some of this stuff. I'm going to take the exhaust back off, apply a load to the joints, and then reclamp them down and see if that stops it from blowing. So the exhaust is off, has been off, back on, and now it has the assembly paste on all the joints. I'm going to leave that to cure for up to 24 hours and see if it stops any exhaust blows. Next job I've got to do is I plugged ISTA in. and it was saying that there was no communication with the power steering. So I'm going to have a look at that and make sure I've connected everything up when I put the subframe back in. So we can see the little connector is connected, which I think is like the data control connector. There's a big connector on the top, which is a complete pig to get to. I think that one might need plugging in a little bit more. So after all of that, I've come to the conclusion that ISTA is just playing mind games with me. The pump is working because when I disconnected the fan and took the fan off, the pump could still be heard. So I'm going with the pump's working, it's just ISTA playing games. Now we just need to wait for the relays and then try and get the washer jets working. We've got a result. Working washer jets. The old relays there behind here. So behind this panel here, you can just see the two relays here. Replace them both. The motor now spins correctly as expected. So that's a good result. And to top it all off, put the old pump back on with the new relays and it's working fine. I think I need to switch these around because I've managed to connect them up back to front, so that's actually going to the rear and this one's for the front. I'll do that and then I can at least crack on. This is why I hate car electronics. At the connector I was seeing 12 volts, but clearly it wasn't a legit 12 volts because now with the relays swapped over, the pump's actually working. However, I've switched the outlets around so that now the back goes to the back and the front goes to the front rather than reversing the pump, and I'm getting nothing out the nozzles. So I'm debating putting the original reservoir and pump back in the car and then we can get it off for an MOT and hopefully that will solve all the problems. Working washer jets. Sight for sore eyes for sure. After doing the relays, sorting out the hoses so that they're not kinked and all the rest of it, I've even put needles down, the little sewing needles down the jets, and we now have 4 working washer jets on the front. Rear jet still isn't working, but that's not an MOT issue, so that can go on the snag list for after. Things were going well, getting the front arch liner in, getting the front bumper on, and went to tighten the exhaust because I've got a slight blow. Looks like I need a trip to Halfords. So things were going well until they weren't. As you can see, we've got the front bumper on, arch liners back on, all of this is now fully tightened up, and I've also had to redo this exhaust joint again, but things haven't been quite that simple. I've just had a quick look and put the car in gear. Notice I've got no Speedo working, and whilst doing some light checks I've noticed that the fog lamp isn't working. So 2 more problems that need solving in order to get it through its MOT. Joyful. So I've just been doing some reading, should have read first. Fog lights are working, and the reason I don't have a Speedo is because actually the speed comes from the left rear wheel and the rear wheels weren't spinning when it was in gear. So the only way I'm going to know that is by having it on the ground, or I might see if I can get somebody to spin the wheel rapidly. And then just proof, I didn't realise that the indicator was actually in the toggle switch. I was looking for an indicator up here somewhere, and with the lights on you can see 1 and 2, so my fog lights are actually working. And as if by magic, wheels are on, the car is on the ground, and I can confirm the Speedo does work from moving it back and forth. Even at 1 mile an hour it reads. So it is now time to get this in for its MOT. And let's see what that comes back with. Well, I'm back. The car has been for its MOT, and I can say it has passed. There were two things noted. The headlights need polishing up, and I need to have a look at the front brake lines. Beyond that, it passed with no other advisories. So those two jobs will get done. I've also got a whole host of other bits and pieces that need looking at, including the saggy headliner. Going to try and swap out the spark plugs, coil, HT leads. Never change the cabin filter. The indicator stalk is a bit loose and occasionally activates the main beam when using the indicator. The fuel filter still needs to be done. I need to work out what I'm going to do with the air filter / intake, because you can see it's got a cheap aftermarket cone filter on there at the moment, just wobbling about. The driver's door doesn't unlock on the key fob. It works fine on the key. The remote central locking all works on everything for locking it, just not unlocking the driver's door. I've got paintwork to do on the front bumper and a little bit on the rear bumper. Wouldn't mind getting the wheels refurbished and maybe going white. There's something about white wheels on a Mini at the moment that's really, really, really gets me going. I need to look at the trim on the near side pillar, because there's cracks all down the outside trim on there. The trim behind me, the little chrome trim behind me, that needs to be looked at because it keeps popping off. Rear window wiper blade needs changing. I didn't change it because it wasn't in the MOT, and I need to get the rear wash jet working. The rear lights are looking a bit grotty. Now, I don't know whether to change those for some LED units, take them apart and clean them up, put them back together, stop them getting all the gunk inside them. The number plates are cracked, although not going to be misread, so probably just get a set of number plates, standard number plates. The spare key doesn't work on the remote or anything, so I think the battery in that needs replacing. I could do with a new cover as well, maybe. The low speed fan I've discovered doesn't work, but the high speed fan does. And the last one is the air conditioning. So there's still plenty of work to do on this car, but if you've enjoyed this series, please remember to subscribe, like, comment, share. It's been a journey. It has fought back, and I'm sorry that this episode was quite heavily focused on the washer jets, but that was quite a key thing to get working in order to get the MOT. Hopefully you've learned something from it, and it just goes to show some of the complexities around some of these refinements that the manufacturers do with the parts, and especially when they're not backwards compatible, like with the washer pump. But yeah, until the next time, thank you and see you again soon.